Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Near-death experiences are a universally accepted phenomena, with masses of scientific literature devoted to their study. They have been the research topic of countless studies. Despite this, there is no evidence that near-death experiences exist or have ever happened. Ghost encounters, UFO sightings, telepathy, and alien abductions all have the same amount of empirical evidence, but are subject to endless skeptical scrutiny, if not immediately dismissed as hoaxes or ignorant errors of perception. Yet near-death experiences are never questioned as being anything other than a shared human experience.
This one woman heard her doctors talk while she was clinically brain dead for some time. She talked to them about it after the surgery, or whatever they were doing. Turns out, her memory of the conversation accurately reflected what they had been talking about, while the monitor was showing a complete lack of brain activity. Claimed she was outside of her body observing the procedure. The doctors couldn't explain it, and they were real doctors to my recollection. I looked it up while investigating this case just a few years ago.
Have two stories that can be considered near-death or reality glitches. First, I live in the country bumpkin, Texas, USA. Like most kids who drive pickup trucks pretty early. Be driving back roads like I have 100 times to school. It's a late day, so drive up to school around 8. There are a lot of four-way intersections, but they only have crossing stop signs because the tree line is too thick to just cross. The area is known for grass farms and has super deep ditches to help control flooding. Drive as usual past the first cross-section, no biggie. Approach the second intersection. A wild bus appears and runs a stop sign at full speed. Swings out so far its front driver's side tire dips into my lane's ditch. There is the engine right in my face. All I can see is yellow and the little stop sign that's on the side of the bus, not the road. Close my eyes tight and grip my wheel. Feel the truck tilt and know I'm about to crash into the ditch. Hold my breath, open eyes, and I'm pulling into the school gates crying and literally melt out of my truck. Second, be driving on an infamously horrible stretch of road known as Interstate 45 North in Houston. Traffic is going pretty good, going around 65 or 70 on the farthest left-hand lane. All of a sudden, I see the commercial van in front of me tap his brakes, and the last thing I remember was tasting blood and something punched the wind out of my chest. Hit van so hard his back wheels start to climb up my hood, what's left of it, and rolls back off. Wait a second to understand what the hell just happened. Guy gets out shaking his head saying he's sorry. Apparently some idiots in sports cars were playing ass grab with each other and had swerved from hitting each other when traffic came to a complete halt. He had just gotten the van and its brakes were extremely sensitive. He only had time to stop enough to avoid them and not to slow down. My car had hit so hard the little corner triangle windows on the car doors had shattered and you could poke your finger out of them. My hood peeled back halfway. Cops come and say they see this way too often. Not even at fault. No tickets. No scrapes. Only bruises on my chest from the airbag. Few days later, see auto place in front counter girl says it's so weird, but 3 cars the same day, same year, same make, model, and color all had the same accident and totaled cars. 2 other car owners went to the hospital though. I wonder if something was targeting or looking for me.
About 5 or so years old, visiting uncle's house with mother and sister. Living near the lake, my sister and I decided to go swimming. Swam around for a bit, nothing unusual. I get the genius idea to take my life vest off while no one is looking. Swim around using some sort of foam mat as a paddleboard. Try sitting on the mat like a dumbass. It sinks. I go under. Remember nothing but a brown, ugly murkiness that lasted for what felt like at least an hour. Sort of like what people describe when they go through a coma. Don't even remember struggling for air. End up waking to being dragged to shore by my sister, gagging and spitting up water. I remember it like yesterday, yet my family doesn't brush it off like it was nothing. Or didn't even happen, like they are either suppressing it or genuinely don't care. I think my subconscious dislike of getting wet can be attributed to that. I mean, I absolutely hate the feeling of water. Still gotta take showers. Nobody likes a stink bomb.
I had a near-death experience some time ago which I would like to discuss. I had a very serious organ failure, and according to the doctors, there was about a 75% chance that I was going to die very soon. I have only talked about this with one person, and it's maybe a bit cliché, but I found it to be a positive experience, and it definitely reduced my fear of dying. I was in a coma for about 2 days, during which time this supposedly took place. Be in hospital, laying in a hospital bed. Doctor tells me that there is nothing more that they can do, and that I'm probably going to die. Dad is visiting me. I am so tired that I can barely hold my eyes open. Tell him that I think this is probably it. Sorry, but I can't stay awake anymore. Lose consciousness basically mid-sentence. Long-ass time of nothing at all. Suddenly, I am aware of myself again. I am laying on my back on a flat surface. I can tell that it's very bright, but I can't see anything like... There's a blindfold over my eyes. Feel like somebody is writing something on my forehead and face. Think that I am in the morgue and that the coroner is probably going to start sawing my skull open soon. I feel a presence of maybe 4 or 5 things around me, and they are talking. Pretty damn freaked out now. Try to yell that I am awake so they stop whatever they are doing. Can't make a sound and can't move. Feel something with many arms and limbs grab me from behind. It feels like my whole body is being massaged and electrocuted, and it's very pleasurable and very painful at the same time. Don't know what it was, but I remember it really felt like a female entity somehow. Think that I crapped my pants. I actually did not. Hear the things around me say, "He will wake up now." The things leave. Reality materializes around me, and the blindfold slowly goes away and I can see. Body feels super heavy, but I didn't actually shit myself. Nurse comes and sees that I'm awake. Ask the nurse if there were doctors or something here just a moment ago. Nurse says no.
It's not a big deal that you shit yourself. You don't have to lie about it.
I was watching Dr. Oz, and there was this doctor who had meningitis. The particular kind of fungus that caused it was eating away at the part of his brain responsible for hallucinating and dreaming, yet he remembers seeing great and beautiful places when being declared medically dead. Given a choice, feeling pure peace. All the stuff that comes with near-death experience. He has no scientific explanation as to how this happens. He wasn't even a believer in anything paranormal or religious before it happened. Scientifically and medically, he should have experienced and remembered blackness before coming back to.
Got 2, though the first one probably wasn't as much near death. Be me at 16. Pull out of work and speed up to 55 miles per hour. Watch a car pull in front of me. See the car spinning off to the side of the road. Suddenly, the top half of the seatbelt snaps and head slams into the windshield at 55 miles per hour. Get held back by the bottom half while ribs smash against the steering wheel. The accident is over and the windshield is a web of cracks that can't be seen through. EMT arrives and refuses to let me move, straps me on a stretcher, says I could have permanent spinal damage, only end up with a small scar above my forehead. Here's another one. Be me almost exactly a year later. Get out of work on Sunday and eat frozen dinner, proceed to throw up frozen dinner, stay homesick all week. Wednesday, Mom asks, "Doctor on Thursday or Friday?" Thursday, I guess. Sooner the better. Feeling much better on Thursday, but go anyway. The doctor checks X-ray, and the appendix could burst at any moment. Sit around on the hospital bed playing Game Boy while I wait to be rushed into surgery. When I went to get the stitches removed, I found out that it was gangrenous appendicitis and that I wouldn't have survived till Friday if I'd waited. So basically, I was asked if I wanted to live, go on Thursday, or die, go on Friday, without knowing it.
Not sure if it counts, but I guess it does anyways. 5 years ago. Almost Christmas, so I'm putting up a tree with Mom. Both in a good mood because it's the first year in a long time I'm not sick for Christmas. Mention that we both laugh. Not even 20 minutes later, I feel really weird, so I go and lay down for a bit. Suddenly my stomach hurts like no other, but I manage to stagger to the bathroom before it becomes too much. Fall on the ground screaming bloody murder for my mom. Mom is freaking out because I have a really high pain tolerance and never scream like this and drive me to the hospital. Get there and still in so much pain all I'm doing is screaming and crying. Get a room right away. No real wait. Doctors do some tests and they realize my appendix burst and send me straight into surgery. Get sent home 11 hours after surgery. Doc says I'll be fine. Think to myself, oh cool, so glad that's over. I jinxed it. End up waking up not even 24 hours later. I'm unable to breathe, coughing up huge amounts of blood. Mom drives me to the hospital again. Doctors are confused but accept me again. Run a bunch of tests again and realize that both my lungs are almost completely collapsed and full of blood, and also severe pneumonia. Doctors are afraid it'll send me into shock if they surgically drain my lungs, so they decide to try something else first. Have to be on breathing treatments every 15 minutes. I remember being on oxygen, morphine, and some antibiotics, but the whole thing was a blur. All I did was sleep almost non-stop. When I was awake, I didn't really speak and had to have help eating and moving. Now been in the hospital for 2 weeks. Doctors pull Mom aside and say something along the lines of, "Sorry, he's not getting better. You better say goodbye now. Call the family. There isn't much left we can do but hope." Mom starts to pray heavily for days. On Christmas, make a miraculous recovery and start to get better. Walking around, moving, talking, actually being awake. My mom didn't tell me the doctor said I was pretty much dead till after I got out of the hospital. I lost like 25 pounds because I never ate or drank anything. Apparently, even my scumbag dad came and saw me, and I don't even remember that.
Be me. About 4 years old. I have bad asthma. Get the flu. My parents took me to the hospital. High fever. Don't remember actually going. I remember being in bed with an oxygen tent in a big kids' room, like 5 or 6 other beds in there. That night, I woke up to see very bright lights streaming from the door next to my bed. A couple of older people come in from it. Talk to me, smiling, feel like I know them but didn't know them. They tell me I'm going to be okay. They just wanted to come see me. They leave back through the door next to bed, super bright light from the room on the other side of the door. Next morning, ask Mum and Dad who those people were. Ask why they moved my bed. There wasn't a door next to me now. They tell me I've been there the whole time. Tell them no, people came out of a door right next to my bed last night. The only door is on another wall across the room. Rapidly got better throughout the day, and next was sent home the 3rd day after.
I've had 3 instances where I should have had died, but didn't. 6th grade. The end of the class trip is to a wave pool. Friends are all at the far end where the waves can get really heavy. Notice that they are all gone one moment, and the next I'm having the waves push down on me really hard. Every time they would push me down, I would resurface to try and catch my breath, and they would come in again. This keeps happening, and I think, this is it. I'm going to die. Can't even scream out for help. No one else was really around to see me. I black out for a few seconds and find myself being lifted up by someone and pulled out to the side. Junior year of high school. It's a snow day, huge snowfall. Friend and I decide we want to go play laser tag. No one is willing to give us a ride. We decided to take the bus. Waiting for the bus for an hour, no show. See one coming the opposite direction, say screw it, we'll take that one. Don't care where it takes us. Bolt across the street. Hit an ice patch, slip, fall, slide forward. All of a sudden, this massive 4x4 truck comes out of nowhere and runs directly over my legs. Laying there, I turn my head and notice I'm in the direct path of the bus, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. Somehow pull myself up, get on the sidewalk just as I see the bus barreling by. A woman in the truck gets out, makes sure I'm okay. Friend and I just walk back to my house. Nothing broken, no bruises or anything. Last year, on a trip for work, staying at a hotel, having trouble sleeping, figure I'll hang out by the pool for a bit to try and relax. As I'm walking by the pool area, I somehow slip on water or condensation or something. I remember falling, hitting my head, and feeling myself going into the water. But that's it. Next thing I know, I'm sitting on a bench outside of the pool area holding my head. Kind of bleeding, hurts really bad, and my clothes are all wet. Go back to my room. It's been about 2.5 hours since I went down to the pool. Just crawl back in bed and sleep it off. No one mentions anything to me, not even the hotel staff.
Be me, about 11 or 12. Hiking with my older brother. He's 13. Get to Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania. It's pretty damn big. Lots of big rocks. Hop out to the center of the river on the rocks because we're stupid little shits. Chilling out in the middle of the river on a rock. It's nice out there, man. All of a sudden, we hear a loud siren, look behind us and see a channel or dam opening up. Water gushing down towards us. It's fairly far away, but the water was rising fast. Rocks we used to get out here were slowly getting submerged in water. Have to get our legs wet, running back, fall into water a few times, getting soaked. Get back to shoreline where a couple of friends were waiting. Soaking wet in January in the middle of the woods. We both ended up with a mild case of pneumonia, but we were otherwise okay. My feels when we both could have drowned out there if we stayed just a little bit longer.
2 years ago, I was a type 1 diabetic living with my parents. Before bed, I have high blood sugar, so I pump myself with about 30 units of insulin. I always wake up when I feel low, so I go to get juice to bring it up. Except tonight, I didn't wake up. Wake up feeling hazy. Feels like I just woke up after a century. Notice red flashing lights on my ceiling and the sound of people talking over a radio. Don't understand what's happening. I still think I'm dreaming. Look over to see paramedics injecting me with IVs and whatnot. They start snapping their fingers at me and try to get my attention. Parents in the doorway. I realized I must have not woken up. Almost went into a coma and died because I took too much insulin. Realized that I looked like I was trying to self-terminate myself. If my mom hadn't woken up to check on me, I'd be dead right now. I felt incredibly stupid when they asked how much insulin I injected myself with. I said 10 instead of 30.
Damn, man. Is it really that bad? Do you still need people to check on you so you don't die in your sleep?
It's not even that. Apparently, both of my parents were hearing popping sounds all over the house at night. When you open strips for the blood testing meter, it makes a pop sound, and that woke my mom up. Parents talking about popping sounds. Never heard these sounds in the house before. Mom and Dad are getting freaked out. Mom wakes up to popping sounds. She checks on me. Unresponsive. Apparently, I was having a seizure. Popping sounds stop after the incident.
9 years old, and a cocky little shit. It is summer, and where I live there is a day where everyone celebrates by soaking each other with water. Go out, and some girl slaps a whole bucket on my head. Oh, no, you didn't. Run over and have a huge water battle with her until it gets colder. We both went home shivering. The next day, I had a cold. At 38 Celsius, I have seen worse. Shrug it off and go to sleep. The next morning I feel all right, and the temperature is optimal too. Go out and play with my new friend all day. We sit on some swings all night, and I notice that I am terribly shivering again. Stand up and nearly fall down. It is suddenly colder than in a fridge, and my knees are weak as hell. Get carried home by the girl and go to bed. The next morning my temperature is at 39. Spend the whole day in agony, and it does not get better. I live in a middle-of-nowhere village, and Grandma has no medicine, and there is no doctor to go to up close. The next day my temperature goes up to 40. Grandma has to work, and I am in bed, alone. Live through personal purgatory. Grandma only comes back at evenings and gives me some old antibiotics, and fever regulators does not help shit. A whole week has now passed. I'm completely messed up and my body feels like it is disintegrating. I am nearly hitting 42 Celsius now, pretty much the deadly barrier. Feel my brain break down under the heat, hallucinate, and have terrible nightmares for 2 days straight. Already accept that I will die in this bed. Grandma is unshaken and takes one last measure. We go to the sauna in her backyard. The sauna heated like hell itself. Get inside and have the cleaning of my life. As I get outside, get dressed in 3 different stacks of clothing. Go to the house like a shot penguin. Get into bed and get covered under 3 blankets. Spend a whole night sweating in the depths of hell. The next morning I woke up and felt like I was born anew. Jump up and feel like $1,000,000. 36 degrees. I am perfectly healthy again. Thanks, Granny.
Be me, around 2 or 3 years old. I lived in an apartment complex with my mom. She's busy talking to her boyfriend and left the front door open. LittleExplorer.jpg. Leave the apartment, she doesn't notice. Make my way to the middle of the apartment complex. Big-ass pool in the center of the complex. In my mind. BigBathtub.jpg. I don't know how to swim. Don't give a damn. Jump in, and immediately sink to the bottom. Small-ass kid with no body fat, so I sink fast. Basically drowning. I remember an immense pain in my chest, like I got shot. Luckily, Mom noticed me jump in from her apartment. Track star. Gets down to the pool, jumps in and saves my useless ass. It took me till I was around 12 or 13 when my friend finally forced me to learn how to swim. He was on a swim team and he taught me. Now I'm fearless of water.
So many near drownings. People really need to be more mindful of their kids around water and teach them basic swimming lessons.
Driving home after dropping off my prom date. She was supposed to come to my place but had a family emergency, speeding home. Coming up to turn. Press brakes, nothing. Press harder, nothing. Push as hard as I can. Brakes kick in and lock up. The car swerves sideways and dashboard lights go out. Close my eyes. Hear metal grinding, wake up warm. Upside down in the car. Praying to God my legs still work. Crawl out the window and I'm able to walk. The car is about 20 yards off-road upside down. 3 a.m. on the road in a pretty remote town. The car pulls up. Everything is blurry and I can't make out the guy's face. Asks if I want to go to the hospital or home. Home, I told him. He drives to my driveway. I don't remember giving him directions. The next day after the hospital checkup and whatnot, a cop comes and tells me my wallet was turned in. All money still in it, and I ask if the person left contact information. Call number given to me. This number has been disconnected. I never tell this story to friends because it makes me sound insane.
About 5 years ago, one of my hobbies was gliding, sailplaning, and soaring. Returned from a long-distance flight, 271 kilometers. Great weather, thermic lift was off the charts that day. Already lowered flight height for landing 250 meters. The cloud breaks right above the airfield, cuts me off completely, and I lose radio contact. Try turning back looking for a new thermic lift, nothing. Rain and strong winds stretch a few kilometers, and there is no way to fly around. The outland terrain is rocky, slightly mountainous and wooded. Take my chances, accelerate and plow right into the rain. Sight lost and instruments go haywire. 10 meters descend per second, entered the shed at 250 meters altitude and got about 120. 180 meters to go to the airfield. The only thing I hear is the rain slapping on the plane and the altimeter's low-pitched whine. The only thing I see is gray. The only thing I feel is the steep descent of the plane and the cold rain leaking through the air hole. Feels like an eternity. Mind is racing with thoughts about mortality, religion, and philosophy. For some strange reason, I don't feel the urge to pray. I think about my dad standing on the airfield, probably theorizing what my cause of action would be. Radio contact reestablished, light flooding the cockpit. The entire strip cleared for emergency landing. The situation is still shit, extremely low and a good way to go, venting the entire water tank. Clear tree line and almost cut off a few treetops. Slam down on top of a few cranes and screw up the drive. Get out of the plane and immediately pass out. Quit soon thereafter, but recently started reminiscing about the good times.
This hurts so much to remember. I feel like it actually did happen, but I hadn't accepted it, so I'm basically living a lie right now. It's the biggest mistake I almost made in my life. Be around 12. Mom gets married to this hick. Mom and hick are out shopping. I think they're not in the house. Found shotguns in Hick's room. Was playing around with it. I thought it was fake and not loaded for whatever reason. I remember it being a little heavy in voices, and my conscience screaming at me, that I should put it back. My sister is in the other room, and I pointed at her. Whatever the voices or consciousness was, it started screaming and shouting. Ha ha, I got or something of that autistic 12-year-old manner. Sister freaks out, and I put the gun down and away. Day goes on normally, but I'm still remembering the voices and my finger on the trigger. I know it sounds kind of lame, but I still get shudders to this day.
I've told this story before, but I'll post so you're not alone. No jade pointers because I'm on a phone. When I was like 15, my grandpa came home from target practice, and I assumed he had taken the bullets out of his revolver already, as we never kept loaded guns in the house. I was playing with it and put it against my head and was going to make it click. But I heard him coming upstairs and thought if he saw me, he would be mad. So I popped open the cylinder, and 6 shells hit the floor.
Be me. Be biking my way back from work to my house. On the way to my house, I must use a crosswalk. Get off my bike, start walking the crosswalk. The car approaches and does not stop. It's very close now, and I notice it and its speed. At this very moment, I'm sure I will die right here when I look at the approaching car, so I just close my eyes. Everything slows down, and I see some parts of my life flash before my eyes. Hear a crack, I don't know how else to call it, and I'm immediately ejected from my body with a flash of light. I see from the third person that the car is like a feet or so away from me. Didn't even know I had a mole on the back of my neck. Saw it for the first time when I had my out-of-body experience and confirmed it with 2 mirrors afterwards. Everything seems to come to a complete stop and all sound disappears. All of a sudden, everything starts to get a lot darker. I see these golden and sparkling ribbons. They come from the sky in all the darkness. The spot they come from is completely covered in galaxies and stars, with completely impossible colors. Sorry, that is literally the best way I can describe it. And they begin from nothing. It's very hard to explain this part, sorry. There will be a lot more like this, but I'm going to describe them the best I can. They completely cover me, as in me, who is currently standing on the road. They completely cover my soul, if you can call it that. And I see this in third person. I see this brilliant light as they cover my soul. I'm suddenly in space. It is not really space, and I somehow know that. I know I left my body behind on Earth. It does not matter anymore, I think to myself, no panic, calmly. The ribbons start to show me a way back to this ethereal realm, and I follow. I know I do not have a body anymore, but yet I instinctually start to walk. But I no longer even have feet. Yet I move with the golden ribbons. The space with stars and galaxies around me is actually their realm. I know this somehow. And it's not our space and galaxies, it is just an imitation of our space, but just as real as ours. I think it looked like that just to show me how I would imagine it. As time passes, I learn more about everything, as if fed directly into my brain. I learn the ribbons are actually the souls of the people. The journey to wherever they are taking me seems to take forever. The space around us starts to disappear or fade. It is kinda like phasing in and out of existence really erratically and randomly. I see another one of those brilliant lights with completely impossible and indescribable colors. It eventually dissipates and I'm suddenly all alone in the darkness. Soon after, I am once again joined by those ribbons. I realize and know more about the ribbons now somehow. They are one and the same as human souls are, but that this is a temporary and permanent true form. They repeat this cycle when people die, and there is a set amount of them, and it cannot be altered in any way. Now here comes the really weird part, and I find it extremely hard to describe. We eventually arrive at this really huge ball of ribbons, and for some reason I know they are somehow circling Earth. I'm fed with yet more knowledge. I suddenly start remembering people I know, and that they have had past and future lives before. My brother, for example, has been on Earth for at least a dozen times as very different people. I saw them die and be born again by repeating the exact cycle I'm going through right now. Yet I feel no sadness at all, and no emotions for that matter. I just know I have to find a new body to inhabit, or my body, or just linger like the others circling Earth. I know there are other places besides Earth too, but traveling there would take a long time, but I could do it if I wanted to. I could even transcend dimensions if I wanted to. And I could have a very different life as me in the other dimension, and if I would to inhabit their body, they'd be none the wiser if I did that. I'm not 100% sure of this one, but it felt like it. Speaking of the ball circling Earth, and this is extremely hard to wrap my head around now and explain, but I know it was crystal clear to me as I experienced it at that moment. I knew somehow that the consciousness of it is collective. That is how they fed me their information. But them as a whole creates this dimensional matrix that transcends all consciousness, being materia, time and space, everyone I ever knew and didn't. All their lives and personalities start overlapping with mine, and I lose even more of my feelings and thoughts. They don't even feel like my own anymore. I see how various people live their lives and die and get born again, over and over again like I saw before with my brother. I start feeling living people's thoughts too, and they start to make me whole. I get the sudden urge to just return home. Absolutely everything feels like it takes forever to happen. But at the same time it's instantaneous. I see a wheel. While it spins, it just spits out those impossible colors I saw before around it. Its spinning isn't constant, it is like it's downright interdimensional. Again, extremely hard to explain. With my life on it, but it does not even feel my life. Yet I know I have to and I want to return there. I get a rush of feeling from my real-world body and people I know, yet they do not even feel like my own feelings. It is like they were fed to me by the collective consciousness, but I still knew the feelings I felt were mine, but they felt like I was experiencing them in third person. In the middle of all this, I'm provided with an option: return home to my body, or return to another, or linger here and embrace the emptiness with others who chose to do so for one reason or another. For what feels like an eternity of lingering, I apparently chose to go back. I did not even choose it. I think they chose it for me, or that they knew I would have chosen so. When I finally start moving back to my body in the middle of the road, faster than the speed of light, they leave me a parting gift. There is nothing, there is everything. This is all there is to all of this. This is the great data bank of everything that has happened, will happen, and happens right now, and it does not technically even exist. We, as the ribbons of light, the collective consciousness, is everything and absolutely nothing. We are the great library of everything there was, will be, and is. I get closer to my body and I see it from afar in the middle of all the black darkness. I see the crossroad with me standing in it. Before I even realize it, I am back in my body and my head kinda hurts like a headache when you get hit in the head with something. The car slams on its brakes and it screeches really loudly. It is like 10 centimeters away from me now. I realize that my experience did not even take more than a few seconds. Remember that time technically does not even matter, and none of this really matters at all. Still feel kind of happy. I just wave at the driver and continue walking the crossroad towards my home. Get home. Throw up. Feel this sudden sensation that I don't feel really at home in my body. It is like my skin is a bit too tight and my brain somehow lags behind me every time I move or think. Go to sleep. Feel right as rain in the morning, but I feel sure I lost and forgot a lot of details about the event.
I'm on mobile, so please forgive my lack of Greentext. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, my two cousins, about 12 and 8, my sister, around 11, and I went swimming in my uncle's pool when no one was home to watch us. Being the little coward I was, I had never been for a swim in the deep end. My sister and cousins convinced me to try, and said they would watch me from the outdoor couch that was facing the pool. I started from one length and attempted to swim to the other, 4 meters or so, bearing in mind the pool was about 10 by 4. As I reached halfway, I began to choke and drown. I couldn't bring myself above the surface, so I waved my hands, signaling for help from my family, who did nothing. Eventually, I blacked out underwater. There wasn't a crazy DMT trip or flashback of my past, just absolutely nothing. I remember the feeling of swallowing water and shutting down. By pure chance, my uncle's assistant had come by the house to drop something off, and I guess he found me in the water just in time. I woke up on a couch inside, knowing I had drowned. I went outside to ask my sister what the hell she was doing, just watching me die as I signaled for help. She said something along these lines to me. "We just thought you were waving at us, so we just watched," with a smirk and laugh as if it was funny. Had my uncle remembered to bring home some papers, I would have died with my cousins and sister laughing at me.
Got a story about the time slowing thing. Be me 2 weeks ago. Early in the afternoon, driving to school. There's a weird crossing, where cars on the opposing lane have a red light and the other lane has a green one. I'm alone in my lane. The light is green. I'm going at around 40 miles per hour. There are cars on the other lane, stopped after the crossing at the red light, about to drive by them. Suddenly, the second car in the line after the crossing tries to go into my lane, probably to run the red light. No lights, no nothing. Doesn't even see me and keeps coming into my lane. When I see him, he's about halfway into the lane and still accelerating. Then everything slows down, like I'm in bullet time or something. Don't think of anything though. Check on my right at reflex speed to see if I have enough room for evasive maneuvers. Nothing goes through my mind, not even better check the side of the road. Everything is just automatic, and I chain actions easily and with fluidity. Best feeling in the world. Pull the wheel sharply to the side. I succeeded in preventing a collision by a few inches. Go back on the road with another sharp turn without thinking. Get out of bullet time. No adrenaline rush, heart rate is normal, and my heart's not even beating loudly. As I start to realize what just happened, I smile and think it was kind of cool.
It was January of this year. I was doing some work for my boss in his barn's loft attic area. Was putting insulation up. I was walking on the edges of 2x8s. Didn't think it was a problem because I've had a fairly decent balance in my life. I was carrying a bundle of insulation. I slipped and fell through some poorly attached plywood. Start falling in slow-mo and do the Hollywood reach and miss the 2x8 by like 3 inches. I was falling so slow I thought to myself, why is this taking so long? Almost immediately after I thought that I hit the ground. Couldn't breathe and was seeing red, so I crawled a few feet and blacked out. Woke up like 30 minutes later. Didn't get an ambulance called because I'm hard-headed. Go to the ER after the insistence of a bunch of family members. Turns out I had a crushed T11 vertebra. The first doc that talked to me was kind enough to tell me the lethal fall height was 15 feet. Thank God I'm still breathing and I'm able to walk.
Me 17 2 years ago, driving from Heber Overgard to Phoenix, Arizona. It's a 3-hour drive and I'm about an hour into it. 1 a.m. so there are hardly any other cars out. Thick forest on both sides of the road, no street lights, high beams aren't really helping much going 80. Suddenly a deer comes sprinting out of the woods on the right about 50 meters ahead. The deer stops dead in its tracks and stares at me. I swerve into the oncoming lane to avoid it, but it picks back up and runs into the other lane and then stops in my path. Nail the deer, seatbelt keeps me safe for the most part despite cutting into my skin a little bit. Airbags didn't deploy. The car is still coasting at 10 miles per hour. Use momentum to drive off to the side of the road. Massive amount of smoke coming from under the hood. Kill the engine. Hit the deer on the right side of the hood so the headlight is destroyed. The hood is partially pushed back and the fender is pushed up against the front right tire. The passenger door won't open. Check the phone to call for help. No service. 4% battery life. I was in a rush to get back home and didn't have time to charge my phone before. Try to start the car because I don't know, of course it won't start. The battery won't even turn on, which happens too often in this piece of shit car. Everything is pitch black. I can barely see my hands in front of my face. Thick woods on both sides of the road. Walk around and feel for the deer's body. Can't find it. Feel like I'm being watched. Hear rustling from the tree line and see what I think were coyotes. Hide in the car and eventually fall asleep. A police car came to my rescue in the morning.
Iraq 2006. Traveling north on IED road to Takrit. 3rd Humvee in the patrol. I'm in the gunner's hatch. Oxygen thief of an E2 driver. First lieutenant is VC, vehicle commander. Sandy, windy, and Wednesday, and it's shitty. VC plays AC/DC Highway to Hell to help motivate the vehicle. Been on this route since forward operating base Adder. That is a long fucking drive because that's southern Iraq and Takrit is just north of Baghdad. Lieutenant shouts half a joke as second Humvee gets hit with an IED. Barely a miss, but a shockwave throws both our vehicles. Wake up to Doc slapping my face. Cough up a bit of blood and left arm peppered in small shrapnel wounds. Vision going from clear to blurry. I can barely walk at all. The Humvee is on its side. Hear shouting and contact playing out. I stumble to my Humvee. Sit down next to the gunner's hatch and grab my M16. I swear I see a white figure shout and point in my direction. Pass out again. Wake up in a medical tent. See E2 shaking in his cot crying. Lieutenant is in a coma and being processed for evac to Germany. My left arm is bandaged tight. Aftermath: 9 wounded, 2 killed, 3 Humvees dead-lined, and found a new respect for Army chaplains because our battalion chaplain made a personal flight to our platoon to personally pray and aid the med station for everyone there. It was fucking tough out there. I've heard too many horror stories about guys not making it, or are now messed up for life.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.